Hi, it's James Harrison here to talk about the next Daily Drumming Influences Revisited. Originally posted in 2012, it is February 1st. Today it is Louie Bellson. Now, I was very fortunate to have come across Louie's path several times in my life. But initially, I had heard of Louie Bellson through Chuck Simons, my first drum teacher, and he had explained to me that Louie Bellson was a drummer who had won the Gene Krupa drumming contest when he was a kid and became the famous jazz drummer at that time. And Louie Bellson was one of the first to bring the double bass into the standard, if you want to call it that. Certainly at the time, nobody was doing it when he was doing it. If there were very few. But he brought it to the forefront, if you want to call it that. Great drummer, along the lines of Buddy Rich, in some ways maybe a little bit more, when it came to the timekeeping and stuff, maybe a little bit more musical. Louie was also a composer who wrote several charts. So I had seen Louie Bellson through different ads and things like that. Again, people don't remember that back in the day, you didn't have access to videos like you do now. So you had to wait for him to come on TV or, at the time, Johnny Carson, you could watch the TV guide and it would tell you who the guests were going to be for that week. And I would stay up late to watch the musicians. And Louie would often be a sub in the Tonight Show band, and sometimes a featured guest. But anyway, when I was in high school, at Murray High School in Kentucky, the jazz band went to the Midwest Conference in Chicago. I think it's now called the Midwest Clinic or whatever, but it's usually in December in Chicago. And we were selected to be one of the jazz bands that went. And I think part of the requirement was that 80 to 90% of the music you played had to be brand new published music, and that gave people a chance to hear it. Again, long before the internet. So we had several charts that were sent in, and then we played Queen Bee from Count Basie, and I can't remember something else that we had already done. And everything else was new. But we had two guest artists, and one of them was Louie Bellson. The other was Jamie Aebersold. Louie Bellson chart that was sent in was Carnaby Street, a chart written by Louie Bellson himself, which is a huge piece with multiple drum features in it for the drummer to play, and it kind of changed styles and whatnot. So during that process, when the band was learning it, I got to try to play the song. So at least they had somebody keeping a beat while they learned it. And anyway, at the actual conference or Midwest Clinic, I was at the exhibit hall, where you see a lot of companies showing their gear, their newest gear or whatever. Of course, I had never been exposed to anything like that. I went crazy. Of course, it's also the first time I went to Frank's Drum Closet or Frank's Drum Shop in Chicago. And that was quite an experience as well. But anyway, because Murray's a pretty small town. So when I went there, I went to the exhibit hall, and I had a snare stand that was not a snare stand, a cymbal stand that wasn't acting right. It wouldn't hold or something. So I actually went down to the Premier booth, and I'm not mistaken, Premier had a booth there, and asked if I could borrow a cymbal stand for the concert. And they said, yeah, just take it and then bring it back. I said, perfect, I'll bring it back the next day or whatever. And anyway, while walking around in the Zildjian cymbal booth, I'm sitting there looking at cymbals. And this is long before Sabian even existed. And Louie Bellson walks up in the booth. And of course, I'm just going crazy. And I had my badge on. It said, James Harrison Murray High School. And I said, oh, you're playing with us tomorrow. And he's like, oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And so anyway, we had a rehearsal in the afternoon and then the show at night. And so we're sitting there playing, and Louie was very kind, and when he came into the rehearsal hall, the director, Joe Sills, stopped the band, and Louie was walking up, and he goes, "Hey, James, how you doing?" And everybody looked at me like I was king shit, so to speak, because he said, "How do you know him?" And I had just met him the day before, and he was super kind to say that. He actually, his drum set wasn't delivered or set up yet for the concert. So he played mine in the rehearsal, and I had a double bass premiere at the time. So he played it, and I got a lot of pictures of that and whatnot. And again, myself, Kevin Albritton, and John Taylor were the drummers and percussionists for the jazz band, and we were all just sitting there watching Louie mesmerized and whatnot. And then in the concert that night, they had a kit set up for him. It was a pearl kit, and it was fiberglass shells, and it looked like fiberglass. And he performed. I think Carnaby Street probably lasted 25 minutes long. He was late getting there, so we had to move the piece to the end of the concert because he was playing somewhere else in town and coming over for that. It was put out on albums. I have the album, and now I have a CD of it as well and whatnot. I can't remember. It might have been Vince Heisey, a classmate, or somebody had burned off several CDs. So anyway, I have those. And that was my first exposure in person to Louie Bellson. Years later, when I had moved to Boise, I was playing with a band called Redstone, and we were in Missoula, Montana to play a gig, and we went to a local music store, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of the store right now, but I know the percussionist that runs it was Checkers, some kind of drum shop, and Checkers was the owner of the store, still is, as far as I know. Great guy, great drummer. And I went in and whatnot, and I saw a poster or something. Louie Bellson was doing a clinic at an auditorium I think it was on the campus or something, but I'm like, are you kidding? So Kent Persons, a saxophonist with Redstone, and I went to the clinic. And I got the chance to meet Louie Bellson again, and I reminded him of seeing him, almost 10 years prior in Chicago, and he graciously acted like he remembered it. I don't think he did, but anyway, he put on a great clinic. I asked him to do a demonstration with brushes, and he did that. It was fantastic, and autographed something for me again. He did autograph a drum head for me in Chicago, and I left it on the drum and played on it and broke the head, and I was like devastated. But that's another story. So I had him autograph some stuff for me again. And then almost 10 years later, in the mid-90s, in Boise, Idaho, I was playing with a jazz big band that was part of a concert series that they would put out called Jazz Under the Stars. And they brought in Louie Bellson as a guest artist. So hence I got to meet Louie again. And at that time, he was playing a White Marine Pearl Remo kit, a double bass. And I had a vintage, and I still have it, kind of a Buddy Rich setup of a Slingerland, which is a 24, a 13-inch tom, two 16-inch floor toms, and a matching snare. And it's a late 60s, early 70s model. And I would use that with the big band a lot. And again, Louie came into the rehearsal and sat down and played the kit and was, "Oh, this is such a great kit. I used to have one of these, blah, blah, blah." Anyway, we did a version of It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing. And on that particular, I think it was that chart, but on that particular chart, we got to do a drum battle where I played the first half of the concert and he came out and did the second half. And I was on a riser and his drum set was down below, more face forward to the band. So I came out at the very end of the show, kind of an encore thing, and what we did is a little bit of a drum battle back and forth. One of the highlights of my life. It's on video. It's on my iPod, which I still have one, and it's on some disc and everything, but I don't have it on any of the YouTube or anything like that. I never moved it over. It was posted on Facebook at some point, but I don't know where it is right now. So anyway, so 3 times I got to cross paths with Louie Bellson. The last time, of course, I got to actually play a drum battle with him. A fantastic experience. I loved it. I tried to hang in there anyway. But And then he was very gracious. He autographed, again, some videos and stuff I had, and some CDs. And I got the Louie Bellson towel and whatnot. And it was a fantastic experience. And I've always admired and looked to his musicalness, or if you want to call it that, that's not really a word, but musicalness with the bands he played with. He could chop out when he wanted to, but he could also just get back and play some nice little grooves and whatnot. And again, one of my heroes when it comes to brushes. So there you go. I can't say enough good things about him. He was always super gracious to me, but definitely a drumming inspiration and a drumming hero. And his picture is somewhere in the house right now. But the drummer, Louie Bellson.